Mangwana ni Mwalelepo Vukenjani Kwaswanawe Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Berry and Glenora Shipura.
Good morning, Ashwa.
How's it going, Glenora?
Good, good. Did I ever tell you are my brother from another Mr.?
All right. It's because of my surname.
Yeah.
It's also
Berry.
like,
yeah, Herrero.
Because in Shona you just say Mberi. But once I cross over into Okakarara, it's Berry.
It's Berry. Ashwin Berry.
You
Yes, exactly. Now let's take a look at what you can expect on Africa Good Morning. EAC launches online tool to monitor border posts in the region. South Africa named world's best country to visit. Security breach. Will also be crossing over to Talen Gore, who's in Zimbabwe, who'll be bringing us the latest news on the ground there. Do stay tuned for Africa Good Morning.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Javela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Now, the East African community has unveiled an online tool to measure the performance of one-stop border posts constructed across the region to facilitate trade. The measurements will include time spent on administrative procedures, reduction of transport costs, and reduction of inventory costs, among others. Customs administrators will use the data generated by the measurement tool to assess OSBP performance and institute improvement strategies. The tool is now ready for use. The partner states will embark on data collection, sensitization on use, and full rollout, said Ms. Annette Semuumba, the EAC Deputy Secretary General. Launching of the tool took place in Nairobi on Monday during the opening session of the 14th African Union High-Level Private Sector Forum.
Now, South Africa is named world's best country to visit. Readers surveyed by the UK's Telegraph newspaper say South Africa is the world's best tourist destination. The right-wing paper gushes over the beauty of Cape Town, calling it a supermodel at the foot of Table Mountain. It also hails the fine vintages of South Africa's wine country and calls the Garden Route a ribbon of a road trip nirvana. Now, Kenya and Botswana also rank in the Telegraph's top 10 at number 7 and number 10 respectively. The Telegraph Travel Awards stretch to 20 categories, covering everything from airlines and cruise operators to hotel groups and ski companies. But the category that acts as the most revealing litmus test on the world around is the battle to be named your favorite country. Every year, Telegraph readers vote in significant numbers for their chosen corner of the planet.
All right, now Kenya's security minister says the deaths of more than 300 people linked to doomsday cult in the Shakahola forest is the worst security breach in the country's history. 10 more bodies were exhumed from the forest on Tuesday, raising the death toll to 360. Appearing before a Senate committee, the minister, Professor Kithure Kindiki, further said that the suspected cult leader, Paul Mackenzie Ntenge's activities were reported from as early as 2020. A report was filed at the Langombaya police station. No action was taken. Some of the officers and judicial officers must answer that question, he said. At least 339 people linked to the Good News International Church are believed to have either starved themselves to death, were badly beaten, or strangled at the Shakahola forest in southeastern Kenya.
Swinging back to South Africa, South African police launched manhunt after 6 shot dead. South African police launched a manhunt after 6 people were killed and 4 others wounded in the latest mass shootings in a country with one of the world's highest murder rates. The shooting took place on Tuesday evening in the Kwanobule township in the Eastern Cape province on the outskirts outskirts of the town of Kariga, where Volkswagen has a car plant. Now, 3 unknown men entered a yard in Kwanebule and opened fire, a police said. Now, 2 women were shot at the gate, one of whom succumbed to her injuries. A further 8 people were shot, 5 of whom were killed. Police said the injured had been taken to the hospital. The motive for the killing was not yet known. The Eastern Cape's Provincial Police Commissioner asked the local community to help police find the killers. These criminals must not be allowed to roam our streets any longer. Hence, we are appealing to the community of Kwanebule to work with the police, Numtele Mene said.
Now, Amnesty International on Tuesday urged states in West and Central Africa to tackle corruption and to stop persecuting human rights defenders who speak out against it. In a report launched for Africa Anti-Corruption Day, the organization denounced the arrests, harassment, detention, and even death against human rights defenders fighting corruption in the 19 countries of West and Central Africa. These people play a crucial role in the fight against corruption and thus in the defense of fundamental rights. Yet they are the target of attacks, intimidation, harassment, and persecution, and they come to light with the truth, said Agnes Calamard, Secretary General of Amnesty International. That brings us to the end of our top stories on Africa. Good morning. Now, Xavier Kasukuwere may need some saving himself as his presidential bid has been nullified by the High Court in Zimbabwe, and we'll be talking to Talent Gore about that after the break.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
All right, we'll be getting into the stories from Zimbabwe with Talent Gore, starting with the blockbuster of yesterday, which was Xavier Kasukuwere's bid to run for president being nullified by the High Court of Zimbabwe. What does this mean for the political landscape? It said that they believed he might have been splitting the ZANU-PF votes, which could have inspired this move. What do you think, Talent? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Well, apparently independent presidential candidate and former cabinet minister Xavier Kasukuwere has been disqualified from contesting the upcoming presidential elections after the High Court ruled that he did not meet the residency requirements stipulated in the electoral law. Apparently, if one wants to be a president in Zimbabwe, he or she has to be a resident in Zimbabwe for at least 18 months. And the High Court said that Kasukuwere did not qualify, or rather he was not eligible for running for presidency. Kasukuwere has been exiled since November 2017, when President Emmerson Mnangagwa came back to Zimbabwe for when the coup, apparently the alleged coup, happened in Zimbabwe. So now he has been in South Africa and he's still there. So he had filed his nomination papers in June and he was actually accepted as a presidential candidate. But however, the High Court has since turned that down and they have nullified his nomination papers. They're saying that he cannot, he's not eligible for running for presidency. And also you can the person who went to court and challenged his nomination papers, his candidature, is actually a ZANU-PF activist. So now it is being believed that ZANU-PF is now scared because Kasukuwere is or was going to divide the votes in ZANU-PF. So now we're just waiting to see how Kasukuwere is going to respond to such.
Well, to keep us posted on that. Moving on, 17 pharmaceutical firms face closure over black market pricing. Can you expand on this?
Yes, the Zimbabwean government has announced plans to suspend or withdraw trading licenses of a given list of 17 pharmaceutical companies recently tagged by the Reserve Bank Financial Intelligence Unit for pegging prices using black market foreign currency rates, using black foreign currency rates in violation of the Treasury Exchange Control Directives. As you all know, Zimbabwe has been hit high by inflation, and the government has since announced that there are 17 pharmaceutical companies which are facing closure, or they are going to revoke their licenses after they've been using a way upward rate. The current black market rate is 10,000 Zimbabwean dollars as to $1, but the official rate is 5,000 Zimbabwean dollars as to $1. So many companies are using the rate of 11,000 or 10,000.
All right, now in the last of your stories, we are talking about FIFA lifting the ban on Zimbabwe. Just for some context, Zimbabwe is a rich footballing nation, rich footballing history. The very first African player to ever play in the English Premier League was Zimbabwean. His name was Peter Ndlovu, one of Liverpool's most famed goalkeepers, Bruce Grobbelaar. Move over to, right now, Marvelous Nakamba, who helped Luton FC enter the English Premier League. Now, why is this something that I'm bringing up? Marvelous Nakamba, like other Zimbabweans who are playing internationally and playing well locally, could not have worn their national jerseys in the last year or so. They couldn't compete in COSAFA. Zimbabwe cannot qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations, let alone the World Cup. And thus, the country which loves football so much has been at a standstill. But right now, it seems FIFA is lifting the ban on Zimbabwe and have appointed a normalization committee, which is something we saw happen in Namibia as well. Could you shed more light on that?
Yes, well, FIFA on Monday lifted Zimbabwe's suspension from international football, which has been in place since February 2022 last year. Apparently, the ban was implemented because there was government interference in the Zimbabwean football, and FIFA does not allow that. So now the term of the FIFA board, which was they expired, and that is when FIFA decided to lift the ban. The decision also followed the Sports and Recreational Commission decision to lift its own suspension on the Fulton Kamambo FIFA executive, which led to the ban. Apparently, the lifting of the Zimbabwe suspension means that the country will be in the head for the 2026 World Cup draw, which will take place in Benin a night before the 45th CAF Ordinary General Assembly. So Zimbabwe had been banned since February 2022, and now the footballers and everyone is quite happy that FIFA has finally lifted the ban, and that the FIFA board, which was being led by Kamambo, is no longer in charge, because the citizens and also those in football believed that the Kamambo-led board was actually destroying football in Zimbabwe, and there was need for the government to interfere to stop and to suspend that board. So now that the ban has been lifted, and now that the Kamambo-led board's term has expired, football will be back to normal, and there's been a normalization board which has been put in place. So we're hoping that everything is going to be back to normal, and Zimbabwe will actually take part in international football. And also the stadiums in Zimbabwe, they are being renovated, and so we are hoping for the better and good of the football fraternity in Zimbabwe.
Yes, indeed. It's interesting to see how many parallels there are between Zimbabwe and Namibia. Of course, Peter Shalulile might be the difference maker between the two sides. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the stories from the House of Stone.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
It's always good to have you on Africa. Good morning. Let's have a look at the weather predictions.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
All right, let's get into the economic news stories, starting off with Zambia, as Zambia's overseas bond holders have entered into non-disclosure agreements with the government as of Wednesday, according to three sources, a key step marking the beginning of formal talks to restructure over $3 billion of international bonds. The government is expected to share with some of its biggest international bondholders, members of the creditor committee, detailed information that will form the basis of debt restructuring talks as early as Wednesday.
Now, Shell finds hydrocarbons in latest Namibia exploration well. Shell said on Wednesday it had successfully completed drilling a fourth exploration well, Lesedi 1X, in Namibia that confirmed the presence of hydrocarbons. Shell and France's Total Energies have made several oil and gas discoveries off the coast of the southern African country in recent years, leading to a sharp increase in exploration activity there. In its statement on Wednesday, Shell said data following the successful fourth drilling confirmed the presence of hydrocarbons, adding further evaluation is required to determine developmental potential. Now, Shell and its partners, Qatar Energy and Namibia's national oil company, plan to drill 2 further wells in Namibia by the third quarter of this year. A document dated March and seen by Reuters showed.
All right, that brings us to the end of our economic news stories. Indicators up next, just before the sport with Ari.
International sports news, and starting off with tennis news first. It is Wimbledon that continues. It's week 2 and the finals will be played this coming weekend. On Saturday it will be the women's final and the men's final will be on Sunday. News from the women's draw is a big result for Elena Svitolina. She is from the Ukraine. She's through to the semi-final and she beat the number 1 seed Iga Swiatek of Poland by 7-5, 6-7 and 6-2. That game was played in the quarter-finals, and it's a big result for Svitolina, and she said that the war between Russia and Ukraine made her stronger to be successful in this tournament. The Ukrainian will now play Marketa Vondrousova, and both of them are unseeded. That is both Svitolina and Vondrousova. And Vondrousova, she beat Jessica Pegula of the United States. That was 6-4, 2-6 and 6-4 for them to play in the final or in the semi-final, and one of them will play in the final of Wimbledon on Saturday. In the men's draw, it's a good result for Novak Djokovic. He continues his winning run and he beat Andrei Rublev in the quarterfinals. He's through to the semi-final as well. And it is Novak Djokovic that is trying to emulate Roger Federer by winning 8 men's singles titles in this year's tournament. Also through to the semi-finals is Yannick Sinner of Italy. He's the number 8 seed and he beat Romain Sufilin of Russia, and the score there was 6-4, 3-6, 6-2 and 6-2 to also to advance to the semi-finals. And continuing international sports news with Formula One racing news, the next Formula One race will be the 23rd of July. There's no Formula One race this coming weekend, and the one on 23 July will be the Hungarian Grand Prix. News from Formula One is related to the Alpha Tauri team, and it is announced that Daniel Ricciardo, he will race the rest of the season for Alpha Tauri. That's changes being made by the Alpha Tauri team. Daniel Ricciardo, very experienced driver, and he will replace Nick de Vries. Nick de Vries from the Netherlands, but he didn't have a good season. In 10 races, he couldn't get 1 point on the points table, and so he is replaced by Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo said it's nice for him to be back in the Red Bull saddle or seat, so to speak. It is not the Red Bull team, but it is the sisters team of Red Bull, that is Alpha Tauri, that he will be racing in. And the 34-year-old Australian is no stranger to Red Bull. He won 7 Grand Prix, that was between 2014 and 2018, and all of those 7 wins was in a Red Bull Honda racing car. So it's good for the Alpha Tauri team to have Daniel Ricciardo back racing for the rest of the season. And concluding today's international sports news, it is Tour de France cycling news. It's the premier Tour de France, the premier cycling event on the men's calendar, and it is stage 11 or stage 10 that was concluded rather. There's 21 stages in total, so quite a few stages still to go. But stage 10 result, it is Pello Bilbao of Spain that won in 3 hours 52 minutes and 34 seconds, and he beat George Zimmermann into second place. He's from Germany, and third position Ben O'Connor of Australia. Pello Bilbao didn't really challenge the leaders on the general classifications. He is now in 5th position, quite a few minutes behind the leaders, and it is still Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar leading. It is Jonas Vingegaard. He's leading in a combined time of 42 hours, 33 minutes and 13 seconds, and Tadej Pogačar still 17 seconds behind. In stage 10, both of them finished on the same time, but now in stage 11 will be 180 kilometers. There's also 3 climbs in that 180 kilometers, but the last 20-30 kilometers are quite flat, and it's expected to be a sprint finish to the end. So at the moment still, it is probably going to be decided between Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar, who won the 2023 Tour de France Cycle Tour. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, oneup2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
So that's been Africa Good Morning on Thursday, the 13th of July. Let's get into the highlights from this morning's broadcast. EAC launches online tool to monitor border posts in the region. South Africa named world's best country to visit. Kenya cult labeled country's worst security breach. And Zambia bondholders advance $3 billion debt restructuring talks, sources say.
And with that, we've come to the end of our show. Do remember that you can catch Africa Good Morning tomorrow, same time, same place. From me, Glenn Rashipura.
And Ashwin Berry, Swera Jakanaka.